My name is Mary Carla DeBramo Merrick.
And what's your age?
I'm 67. Pushing 68. No, I'm 68, pushing 69. I wish I was 67. Is it raining? Yeah, it is. It's raining.
Yeah, it must have started raining. Tell me about your wedding day.
I was scared shit. Tell me about my wedding day. I was scared shit, you know?
Why?
Because it was it was something very new to me. I mean, it was scary.
What's the best part of being married to Dita?
Everything. There isn't any bad part being married to Dita.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's not. It's the truth.
It's so sweet, though.
Yeah. Dita and I, I've been very blessed. I've been loved. And my motto is, I am loved but not pampered. Pampered, I don't think I am, but I am deeply loved. Dita loves me. There's no question. And I love him. I always have and always will. I could always go to him and in my, I can sit down and talk to him and, if I'm not happy or if something happens, I can always go to him and discuss things with him.
What surprised you the most about being a mom?
It's a wonderful thing to be a mom. It's just a very natural, you learn. It's a learning process. You're new at it, especially with your first one. With your mother, it was a new thing for us. And she used to get colicky. And she used to cry from 6 to midnight. And the only thing that used to put her to sleep was Dita would put her on his chest and she would fall asleep. The minute we'd put her in the crib, she would start crying again. So, and then one day we changed bottles and Dita kept running to the store for the right, because nursing bottles, at that time they didn't encourage you to nurse. It was the bottle, we were the experimental generation.
They didn't want you to nurse?
No, they didn't want you to nurse. If you wanted to nurse, doctors discouraged it.
Why?
Because they were stupid. That's why. The most natural thing on earth, they discouraged. Or the baby, or the baby formula companies were paying off the doctors to probably be. That was it. So Dita ran off so many times. It was cold, and he ran to the car. I'll never forget that. And he came back because he kept forgetting things, and he forgot his shoes. He ran to the car without his shoes. He was barefoot. Then he came back because we were doing everything to make her comfortable, not because she was colicky.
How did you decide on the name Michelle?
From the song of the Beatles, Michelle.
Oh, really?
Michelle, Dita loved that song.
Aww.
So we called her Michelle.
Yeah.
So it was the Beatles.
What was it like becoming a grandparent?
Oh, that was exciting. That was amazing. It's like God gives you children the first time and you love them amazingly, and then he gives you grandchildren and you love them even more. So it's a really amazing thing to become a grandparent.
Yeah.
It's like God gives you a second gift.
What was it like being an immigrant in America?
I never knew I was an immigrant. I just knew I lived over here. I didn't know I was an immigrant until you reminded me of it 60 years later. Until you reminded me 60 years later.
What was it like having parents that didn't speak English well?
It was a very normal thing for me. It didn't bother me. I went with my parents and I was their little secretary. I interpreted. I was very content. I was proud of my parents. I was never that, because they didn't speak good English in any way, shape, or form, bother me. It just wasn't done. Like I said, our neighbor next door, what was her name? Oh, Mrs. Bozack. She was Polish. Her mother put her on a boat when she was 13 years old by herself and brought her to the States. And she lived with the nuns. And Mrs. Bozack couldn't bake a small pie because all her pies were like huge. Because that's what she was raised to do. With the nuns, there was a lot of, nuns at that time, and they used to make huge pies. Mrs. Smendrick, on the other side, was from the Ukraine. They had run away from communism, and she was very shy, and because she had suffered a great deal under the communist government, her stories was they ran away and they slept with pigs and ate out of what the pigs ate in order to hide from the soldiers. So I lived on a street where there was American people, there was, I guess we were immigrants, but I never realized it. I never realized how difficult it must have been for my parents to move from one culture to another. My father was 40, my mother was 35, with 5 children. It's a very brave thing to do, because I don't know if I would move to a different country when I'm used to this country, this language, this culture, to move on to a different and live in a different country. But that took a very long time for me to understand that. It's the first time I really understood is when I went to Croatia and I realized the difference in language, how difficult it is when you go to a place and the language is different. And to have to learn that language all over again, and everything else. So it dawned on me there how difficult it must have been for my parents. But they had family here, and that's what cushioned the blow, basically, was family. But you figure they left everything. My mother had no family here. She left her mother, and it must have been very difficult for her mother to see her only daughter leave and go so far away and probably never see her again. Because my mother only saw her mother one other time when she got sick. She went back and, visited her mother. So that must have been very hard for my mom. But, she never really discussed it. They were very private people. They didn't always discuss their feelings the way I am right now. Key to life?
What's the key to life?
Boy, that's a deep question. What is the key to life? I think the key to life is to have faith, to love God, to love your fellow man, to live a decent life.
What's the key to being happy?
I think you have to love yourself first before you can love anyone else. That's the key to being happy. You have to love yourself. If you don't love yourself, then it's very hard to love anyone else. So that's the key.